we live in a world where you must also share, right? You must come out, right? And so you put together the Tourette's and you put together the being gay, and it made for the worst combo in a place. The childhood was incredibly traumatic because the bullying that was endured was unspeakable. And how I never contemplated suicide is a fascinating exercise in reflection. How I never drifted into addiction is still stunning to me. I remember thinking there's no way I can work on national television as being openly gay, but I was okay with that. I was absolutely fine with that. I wasn't gonna marry a woman, but I would keep it to myself. But I was happy to stay in the closet. No problem. If that's what it took, I was gonna do it.
Hi, friend. Welcome to Call Me Friend, powered by Miss Lou's Cabin, an Airbnb property on a remote section of the Georgia coast. This is the podcast where we call one of my friends and you get one incredible story. Today, we are going to call my friend, CBS News contributor David Begnaud. You might know David from his uplifting and positive stories he does on CBS This Morning. His segment is called Beg Knows America. You get it, the pun, Begnaud, Beg Knows America. In any case, David has a way of making you feel like you know him, like you are friends with him, which is kind of how he and I came to meet. We have an interesting story, how we got introduced, or how I introduced myself to him, and he and I are going to talk about that. We also have something in common. Well, you might have this in common with us as well. Have you ever been able to do something or accomplish something that somebody told you or told you in your past would never happen? There's no way you'd ever make this happen. Well, both David and I have been able to do that in our own ways. And it's one of the things that makes me love a beat the odds kind of story. So for a great story like that, for some real insight on what makes this fascinating human bring these inspiring and uplifting stories to the screen, let's go ahead and call David. This episode is powered by Miss Lou's Cabin, an Airbnb property on a remote section of the Georgia coast. Do you ever go to a beautiful resort and you long to know what this place looked like before they paved paradise and put up all those parking lots? Well, here's your chance. Miss Lou's Cabin sits on 7 private acres on a tidal saltwater marsh about 15 minutes south of Savannah, Georgia. It is a place so quiet that you don't even hear road noise. Instead, you're going to hear pink spoonbills, wild dolphins feeding off your private dock. I just saw some this morning. The breeze whistling through the Spanish moss that hangs from countless oak trees all around the property. And then there's this porch overlooking the marsh that is absolutely a perfect place to hang with your family and friends, read a zillion books, catch the sunrise, drink a great cup of coffee, all while you stay in a restored log cabin that has all the comforts and amenities of a beautiful home. Miss Lou's Cabin, check it out in the link below in our show notes, or simply Google Miss Lou's Cabin and you'll find this piece of paradise. Well, hey, friend.
Hi, friend. Good to see you. I'm very excited that you're doing this.
Why is that?
Well, because, I first came upon you on CNN, and I was a teenager living in Lafayette, Louisiana, dreaming big, trying to find myself. And there was this woman on CNN who just had this charismatic ease about her. And I was very drawn to you. And I just thought you were so conversational and so comfortable on camera. And so to, eventually meet you and get to be friends has been a joy for me. So I'm glad to see you back with a microphone.
Right back at you. People have asked, do I like doing this? I'm like, well, you put me in front of a microphone and a camera and I talk to people. Yeah. It's kind of a no-brainer. I really, really loved it. And I don't know if you know, but when I was making my original list of friends I wanted to call, you were right on that first list. So,
well, you and I have done some really meaningful work, which we'll probably get into. But, what I love is that you've been a storyteller, and now what I would call you a story curator. You help people find the way to tell their story. And I love seeing that facet part of you as well.
well, thank you so much. And I was laughing a little bit getting ready for this call, thinking we basically met because I slid into your DMs.
You sure did. You
As the young people today would say. And you took my call, or you took my note. And I had this long shot idea that I was going to convince you to come to Chattanooga, Tennessee to do a story on Just One More Foundation, which is the foundation that gives grants for second chances, and the crazy founder who started at Richard Rogers. And you bit, and you came, and you did an amazing story.
Yeah, but I bit because, truthfully, it was you, and I was excited to hear from you. But second, it was because you didn't pitch me on a nonprofit, right? I am interested in people, not nonprofits. And so you masterfully pitched what was a story of human survival that then got translated into the grateful wanting to do good for other people. And
which is Richard Rogers.
Begnaud story all day. And I will say another thing. There are endless emails that slide into my DMs from well-meaning PR people who just don't really know. Like, they know that I host some series and they think they like it. But like, you knew, and you did the homework, and you came in and you basically, I would call you like an associate producer on the project. You didn't write it. You didn't tell us what to say. Yeah. But you almost kind of helped AP it because you knew so much and how it would speak to what sets my soul on fire. So that's why we did it. That's a great story, by the way. Everybody should go watch it.
We'll link to it in the show notes so people can see it. And also, that's a good asterisk to our DM or our story, because not everybody who slides into David's DMs gets a call back, because I'm sure the box is exploding. So getting back to Chattanooga, I love that you came. I love the story that you did. There was just one problem.
Uh-oh. Tell me.
The problem was, we did this multi-thing shoot. We spent a couple days together, but what I wanted to do was just sit down and hang out with you. Like, we needed this time.
Me too. Which is why I was excited about this. Yeah.
In between a shoot or an interview, we would get but like, I needed my own one-on-one David time to know more about your story and more about how you get to the network. I have so many questions, but starting with little David, this kid and tell me the right way to say your hometown. It's not Lafayette.
It is Lafayette. Yeah,
it is Lafayette.
We say it like Lafayette. So you put a little bit of a laugh, but no, you nailed it.
Lafayette. Okay, so this kid from Lafayette, Louisiana, who I get, you were a news prodigy. You were doing things earlier than maybe some others. Where did that news bug come from?
Well, that news bug came from when I was a kid. My parents would say you only get to watch an hour of television during the summer. And so me, who's always trying to bargain for more, said, well, I want to do an hour of The Price is Right, which was my favorite show. But I want to watch the news too. Well, what parent is going to tell their 7-year-old kid that you can't watch the news? Like, what 7-year-old kid wants to watch the news?
There you go.
And I used to religiously watch it, and then I went on to work with them. And so that's how the same people I used to watch at 7, I went on to co-anchor with and work with. So that's how it started. I think I am naturally a nosy ass person. I had a woman stop me in the store once at a Kroger in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I'll never forget this. She walked down the aisle and she said, "Honey, you know why I love you? Because you bring the news and the gossip." And what I will say about that is, if you know me, you realize that I am just deeply a passionate person. And so I tell things in ways that today are loved and appreciated. But in the beginning, honey, they were not. The folks wanted to change and curtail and fix. They thought I was too much of this and too much of that.
Right.
And so what is celebrated today was not celebrated back then. And I think there's a larger story about being yourself, even when other folks may say, no, but actually when you're 100% of yourself, we don't quite love it. a ton.
Right. And so I think that's something you and I have in common, even though we got into the business at different times. Me a few years earlier than you, as you pointed out, you were in diapers when you watched me.
No,
but I think, I've always said about when I started, if you lined up all the people who came out, let's just say in my class, the beauty queens, the ones that went to the broadcasting schools and this, then you said, okay, let's place bets on who's going to make it the farthest, who's going to make it to network, who's going to make it out of the small market. No one's betting on me. And I would imagine if we did the same thing with your time, I don't know, are people betting on you?
Well, yes. No, I would say it's a little different. People were betting on me to go on to do big things. But there were plenty of people at every single level. There was someone who was like, oh no, he's too much of this and too much of that. And no. But what I knew because of my childhood and the trauma that I faced there is that I was my own advocate. I was my own best advocate, and doubt was my fuel.
Okay. The chip on the shoulder. Yes.
100%. I'm telling you, that is not a cliche. When I am in a situation where I have no doubt, I am not at my best.
We need that in the gas tank.
Amen.
Can we go back to the trauma? Go back to the trauma
part. So I was
part.
diagnosed with Tourette syndrome at the age of 6. And I was also gay, but there's no diagnoses for gay. But there is
at 6 even, yeah,
exactly. But there is a acceptance, and we live in a world where you must also share, right? You must come out, right? And so you put together the Tourette's and you put together the being gay, and it made for the worst combo in a place that we didn't have the words and the language that we have and use today. And I remember thinking there's no way I can work on national television as being openly gay, but I was okay with that. I was absolutely fine with that. I wasn't going to marry a woman, but I would keep it to myself. But I was happy to stay in the closet. No problem. If that's what it took, I was going to do it. The childhood was incredibly traumatic because the bullying that was endured was unspeakable. And how I never contemplated suicide is a fascinating exercise in reflection. How I never drifted into addiction is still stunning to me. I had the most wonderful family. I grew up with no scandals. I wasn't scandalized, touched, inappropriate. But I walled myself off. I walled myself off from the people who loved me and wanted to be there for me. But I wasn't in a place where I could accept it, because I think accepting that love meant being my true self. And so I would do things like test, right? I would say at 13 years old, driving in the car with my mom, oh, he's cute. And my mom would be like, you mean he's handsome? Now, people might be like, oh, wow, what a terrible thing for a mom to say. My mom is a wonderful person. And my mom did the best she knew, but my mom was also worried. My mom, I think, having grown up when AIDS was something that people thought was a cancer, probably thought that maybe that's something that could happen to her son. There's a great story that she tells when I was a baby, and she talks, not a baby, but like 2 or 3 years old, and she went to some nursing conference, and she said to her friends, he keeps walking in my yellow high heel shoes, and I put him on the side of Glenn's boots, and he just never steps in Glenn's boots. And you think he might be gay? And my mom, the way my mom tells the story is her friends were like, gay, Sid, he's a kid. They're obnoxiously yellow. What are you talking about? He's drawn the color. But as the Alabama song, the country music song by Alabama is called Mama Knows, she always knew. And so, but I didn't grow up, Daryn. I did not grow up in an environment where it was accepted and loved. But let me end this point so we can move on by saying this. I have done so much work on myself and in therapy that I have no attachments to the pains of my past. I have gone back and visited with some of the biggest bullies who have also come forward to apologize, who have sent me long missives saying they were sorry. I would never go back and repeat it, but let me also say this. It is the reason I am successful today. The pains of my past are the reason I am successful today, and I have great clarity around that.
that, but also what you said was so profound about you have no attachment to the pains of your past. That huge, David.
But
huge.
Let's be clear on that. That does not mean that I am numb to the past. That does not mean that I am not honest about the past. It means that I have done the work to separate from, right? So I had a therapist who once said, if this is you and everything that affects you pings on you, how can you just put it all in orbit? And so it doesn't go away because we can't erase it, but it floats to where it doesn't ping me. Because every ping is an emotion, it's a feeling, it's a reminder, but it circles in orbit. And what I do is I take that trash of my past and I end up turning that into some kind of treasure that is a testimony, right? A testimony used to help others. I am happiest when I'm doing some kind of expression.
One more thing into the past. Tell me about the Tourette's, because I don't pick anything up. Am I having a limited view of what Tourette's is?
So sometimes what you'll get is this. It's this. The mouth goes one way at the bottom. The top stays where it is, and there's a little bit of a vibration, and sometimes the tongue comes out like a lizard, and it happens when I'm either excited or stressed. I also have a sniff, which is an exhale, which is very brief. And oftentimes I will hear it in the edit bay. They'll be editing down an interview that I've done, and you can hear my little sniffing. The Tourette's was torrential and tormenting because being gay was enough. But when you add the freak show that was the tics that I had on top of the gay, I mean, I was my own walking one-act play. And so they are here there was a period there, and I think between probably 25 and 35 where they seemed really kind of evaporated, and then they came back. And but you know, they're with me, and they've stopped me from doing. They haven't stopped me from doing anything.
Right.
And so you know, if that's my thing, that's my thing. And we just live with it. Sometimes I see myself doing it and it still bothers me. If I see myself doing it on camera, it still bothers me. But, you know, again, if that's my thing, who cares?
That's your thing. We all got a thing. We all got a thing. When you take this package, in your words, your own walking freak show, I would not say that. I'm just going to call it your own package. Who was the person, you can name names or not, who said, hell no, you're not going to make it? But then who was the person who said, oh, yes, you are?
Well, at 18 years old, there was a general manager at the television station, the CBS station, which I watched my entire childhood, that I went on to work for, who I remember he said at 18 years old, and in fairness, I don't know that I would have disagreed. He said he needs a tan and his hair looks like a quail. And I don't know that he was wrong, but what I think he also wanted to say but didn't say is, and he's not manly enough, or he's not whatever, right? And so, but that was okay. It was my peers who at first didn't accept me, and so when you grow up fighting that battalion of doubt your entire life or judgment, you are best suited to confront it. Right? And that's the hope that I want to leave people. Yeah, that's the hope that I want to leave people with. We can talk about the damage that comes from it, but I also want to talk about the preparation that comes with it. Right. And so that was really, and so the person, you know, him at the TV station, I remember, but at CBS News, there's a woman who I have profound respect for, who is no longer at CBS News, who was the president of CBS News, Ingrid Cyprian Matthews. And when I walked in, I'm telling you, the woman thought I spoke a different language and couldn't stand my style and thought I was way too fucking dramatic and wanted me to be less of this and less of that. And then finally, this was years later, I remember the person who believed in me at CBS News called me one day and she said, "You will never guess what Ingrid said." And we had this incredible correspondent named Mark Phillips, who was based in London. And Mark is just, I mean, his writing is poetry. And boy, she held Mark up in so high regard. in such high regard. And so this person called me one day and she said, you will never believe, Ingrid was in a meeting and, they were like, well, what are our options? We have Mark Phillips and David Begnaud. And Ingrid turned and she goes, let's have David do it. And Ingrid would later go on to say, as was relayed to me, I can't define it. It may not be my thing, but it works.
Okay, fair enough.
I think in life, it is not, before we did this podcast, I was on a call with someone whose kid is exploring who they are. And she was not asking my advice, but I gave it to her anyway. And what I said was, as a gay man, what I want you to know is it's not your job to help your child figure it out. It's your job to help your child understand that you are there. And today they might be way over there, and tomorrow they might be way over there. Mm-hmm. But once they figure out where in the hell they are and who they are and where they want to go, they will always be grateful that there was a safe place to land. I said, just like therapy, when you go to therapy, they don't give you a pill to take. They don't tell you what you should do. In fact, they drive you crazy and infuriate you by not telling you, but by helping you find the answer. I said, that's what your kid is looking for. And that's what I missed out on, right? And my mother and I have a wonderful relationship. But I grew up in a place where I was told how I should be and what I should do, rather than allowed to explore whatever it was. And so if I were to have a kid, I just would want the kid to know whatever and whoever you are is good enough for me. And I know you'll figure it out, and I'm going to be right here as you figure it out. And you can change subjects 100 times, but I'm still here. That's when the experience doesn't become a trauma. It becomes a testimony.
And a journey. It does. So who's the person we find out who didn't really get you, but who has been your biggest champion at CBS News?
So Terry Stewart, by far. Terry Stewart started in the News Path office 45 years ago. A Black woman at CBS News at a time when the men ran it, and I don't know how many Black folks were there. And Terry Stewart today is the number 3 at the entire network. And Terry Stewart is the hardest working woman I've ever met. And Terry Stewart, but let me say, you might be thinking, oh, well, she just accepted. No. When I walked in the door, Terry Stewart was also like, who the hell is this, Mama John or whatever, right? And then I won her over, because my way of winning people over, Daryn, is, oh, you doubt? You don't see it? Okay, I'll work to show you. I'll work to prove myself. I've never asked for any favors or leg ups. I don't have a famous last name. I didn't go to some Ivy League college, right? You
don't have a daddy in the business.
Bingo. But I did the work.
Yeah.
I did the work. And what I like to say is the people who didn't want to be on the bus now drive the bus.
Speaking of the work and talking about who you were when you walked in the door of CBS News, who you walked in and the work you came to do is not the work you're doing today. And you talk about, you shared when I came across your radar, when you came across my radar was when you were covering Hurricane Irma and all the aftermath with Puerto Rico. You kind of became Mr. Puerto Rico correspondent, champion, going way past what just a correspondent who just parachutes in and leaves. You really own that. And on top of that, you've covered a lot of horrendous things. So somewhere in there, you decided to and managed to pivot to what you're doing now, which is this positive and uplifting kind of content. How did you do that? And how did you convince them to say, don't send me on another hurricane. Don't send me to another mass shooting. These are the stories you need me to be telling. So
the work in Puerto Rico broke me. It was the biggest success of my career, and every big success of my career came on the back of other people's suffering. And that's just the news business. And I remember saying to my boss one day that I couldn't do this anymore. And my partner and I had been long distance for 6 years. And I remember waking up and saying, this doesn't work for me anymore. And the power to that the lesson in that for everybody is, when you push someone into a change, there's always some kind of lingering resentment. When the person arrives at the change themselves, there is a peace behind it. And so it was my decision to say, this doesn't work for me anymore. I'm going back home. My relationship is not going to be second fiddle anymore. So I told CBS, and I remember them saying something to the effect of, oh, that's nice. Why don't you take a couple weeks off and then you can come back and we'll, whatever. And I was like, okay, all right. So I didn't take a couple weeks off. I started doing the stories that I wanted to do, and the ratings.
Well, now hold on a second. It's not that easy because network news is a team sport. You don't just start doing the story. You need to get a crew. You need to get a travel budget. You need to have a place that it's going to air. You don't just get to decide, oh, I'm going to start doing the stories I want to do. So I know better than that.
Let me be clear. I had earned the capital to declare what I wanted to do after Puerto Rico. That's what had happened, right? When I came in the door, I sat where they told me to sit, and I whatever you wanted me to do, I did it. And after Puerto Rico, I had the right to tell them what I wanted to do, right? And so they said, okay, fine, go do it. And I don't mean to oversimplify it, but the ratings and the reviews proved that it was a smashing success. And that was about 4 years ago. And since then, we've started Begnaud's America, which airs every Monday morning. And that's the series. And then we started Dear David, which is one of the segments under the Begnaud's America. And then I went to them about 2 years ago and I said, all right, so you've let me do what I wanted to do. Now the next phase of what I want to do is something you cannot allow me to do. So just love me enough to let me go. And they were like, well, what exactly is it? And to the credit of the woman who was at the time the president of CBS News, she said, and I think I have it in an email, she said, this is an experiment that you and I are going to take together. And so let's go. And what that was me starting my own company on the outside. So I stepped back from my lead national correspondent role, started a company to build a business around the kind of storytelling I want to do and the impact I want to have. I got very unfulfilled by telling stories about people in need and being like, back to you, Bob. And I wanted to help them. But journalism says you don't cross a line. And I have great reverence for that line. And so that's why I said, I can't do it, so I should go. And they said, well, actually, let's redefine your role. Let's not have you cover those news stories at all, ever anymore. We'll call you a contributor. You'll do this, and that'll allow you to do that.
And here we are.
Here we are.
So what about your gig, your business, your life today works, and what doesn't work?
What works is that I'm able to build a business around what drives my heart. What doesn't work is the travel that is still entailed.
It's still there.
So I'm coming to you from a hotel room today. But let me say, whereas I used to be on the road 200 days a year, I'm on the road 80 days a year.
That's a vast improvement.
That is a vast improvement. And I think travel will always be my Achilles heel, right? It'll always be the struggle because I don't know how you feel, but I am not, I think you were phenomenal on the anchor desk. I'm not my best on the anchor desk. I'm my best with people in the field. I'm my best. I'm my best when I'm walking with them and shaking. When I am with people, I'm at my best. Maybe that means I just need to bring a studio audience into what I do. But
idea. I see the light bulb. Yeah.
That might be a little hint.
Okay.
But yeah, the travel is what still doesn't work. But it's getting better.
I need to tell you what my favorite story of yours. I mean, I love whatever story you're doing Monday morning. That's my favorite story. But if I was ranking them like your children, my favorite is when you first of all, when you got a dog, that was watching you become a dog daddy was so phenomenal. And then you hire a dog trainer who you come to discover is a convicted violent murderer who's been let out of prison. And what you did with that and the second chances and following the trail of how does this guy who is a convicted murderer end up at my front door to become a dog trainer is an all-time story.
So it is for me too. And if you haven't seen it, I would love.
We can link to it. We'll link to that too.
Yeah.
We will link to that too.
Let me say two things about that story.
Okay.
One of which hasn't been heard, and I just heard about, and I'll tell you here.
Okay.
But before I get to that, let me say this: that story forced me to confront my own beliefs. And when this man was standing in my house and he told me, before I start training with a new client, I always tell them I was a convicted murderer and I served 25 years to life and I got out with a second chance. Blah, blah, blah. And I remember sitting down at my door. So he's in my dining room and I sit down on the floor and my back, the door is to my back. And, you have that fleeting moment of like, am I safe? And then my mind went to, well, big guy, you love to talk a good game. You love to talk about second chances and you love and you believe in that. But guess what? Second chances is standing in your fucking living room.
What are you going to do with it?
What you going to do, Bob? What you going to do? Right? You could tell him to leave and he is more than happy to go. But is that what you want to do? And of course I did what is no surprise to you. I said, well, why don't you have a seat and let's talk? And so we had an incredible story. So here's the new part. He called me last week.
Oh, just last week?
No. Actually, wrong. He called me 48 hours ago and told me something that also confronted my beliefs. He's like, I can go to Canada. I said, okay. Again, what are you talking about? He goes, well, Canada doesn't accept felons. I said, are you telling me you're no longer a felon? He said, yep. A judge expunged my record. And so I no longer have the criminal conviction of murder on my record. So I thought for a moment and I said, well, Woody, tell me more. He's been out almost 5 years. And so there is an opportunity to petition the court to expunge the record. And the judge decided, and the way he tells it, and I got to go fact check all this, but he hasn't lied to me once, is that the judge said she's never seen a case like his before. And she has not erred on the side of someone like him before, given his circumstance. I say all of that to tell you how it affected me. I don't know that I feel like his record should have been expunged.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking that because you know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of the victim's family. And in your story, he completely admits he did a very violent, terrible act to a man. He did a bad thing. And I'm glad for the second chance. But does that expunge? Does that mean that it never happened? That he never was a murderer? That person wasn't killed? Like, what does that say?
So a good story is one that provokes people to discuss. And so I actually want to do an update about his story. And what I want to do is I want to reveal that he continues to show that he is performing in a way the parole board thought he would, which is giving back to the community, helping to train dogs, hiring men who are getting out of prison, helping to rehabilitate them. All of that is continuing, and he's had 0 offenses. Model American, okay? But I want to understand how the thing came about, and I'd like to find the prosecutor who put him away. I wonder what his opinion is. It's a story that I know would do well. It's about second chances, but it continues to force me to confront my beliefs. I support Woody being out because I support the parole board doing what they did. They are people in the community who made a decision based on the evidence they had. But this seems like an incredible step. Yeah.
I like to ask the question, what are we trying to achieve here? And if what we are trying to achieve is rehabilitation, benefit for society, things continue to move forward, I can see that being positive. You say you'd like to talk to the prosecutor. I would want to talk to the family of the victim. What do you think about that?
So you should know that all attempts to reach them have been
in the first time.
unsuccessful.
Okay.
All attempts to. We went down. I couldn't even get the representative, the attorney who represented like the victim's advocate person to call us back. I couldn't get anybody to respond. So I don't know what that means, but yeah.
The way you do. Well, I'm feeling quite pleased right now as a DM slider that I slid in, that it kicked off. Maybe it didn't kick off this friendship. It lit the fire to a friendship that was destined to happen from the first time you saw me on the screen and the first time I saw you on the screen. A friendship has been born. And I could talk to you for like 6 hours, honestly. But I don't know that everybody would be as interested as you and I are interested in hearing what we each have to say. But I am wondering, who is that friend? Who is the friend who changed your life?
Well, the friend who changed my life is a 75-year-old woman who was my high school English teacher. And I used to sit in the back corner of the room and I used to talk. And I would talk to people. I'd talk to myself. I did it. And finally the way she tells the story is I put his ass by the board in the back. So the only thing he could talk to was the board. And he still kept talking. And one day she asked me to read in class. And she liked my voice. She thought I was a good reader. So she said, you need to be in speech. Well, I couldn't be bothered with speech. She had been a speech coach at a different high school, and I couldn't be bothered. And boy, she kept hounding me. This woman kept hounding me. And finally, she just wouldn't give up. And finally, I was like, fine, I'll do the speech thing. So I joined the program, and it came easy to me because it was like, oh, I need to memorize something and deliver it. Got it. And so I did it, and I was like procrastinating, memorizing the speech. And finally she's like, listen, the tournament is next weekend. If you don't memorize that damn speech, you're not going. I mean, she laid down the law. And so I memorized the speech. I went, I won, and I never lost to the tournament ever in my career finishing high school. So what it told me was that she helped me find my voice. She helped me find what I was meant to do. It launched the career that I'm in today, no question. The most pivotal thing she did for me was one day she called me into the confessional because the speech room.
Oh, was this Catholic school? This was Catholic school.
Yeah, the speech room at the Catholic high school I went to had a chapel. The chapel had been decommissioned, we'll call it. And so inside the chapel, there was a confessional. So we would practice our speeches in there because the audio was good. They had soundproofing. And okay. So I go in the room one day and she comes in and she kind of slams the door and she says to me, what are you running from? I was like, what are you talking about? I said, what are you running from? And she just called me on my shit. And what she called me on was 18 years of building that fortress that I told you I had built around myself. And what I heard in that moment, Daryn, was not the question I had heard my entire life from my peers, which was, what is wrong with you? What I heard in that moment was, what happened to you?
Oh. Okay.
And when you ask that question of someone, it is not an indictment, it is an invitation to genuinely say, I want to know what, and then she shared so many, she was like, you've been using the same roadmap your entire life and you got to change your roadmap because the roads that lead to pain are no longer operational. Those people are not the traffic cops of those intersections. You gotta change your roadmap. She also coincidentally taught a course called Interpersonal Communication, which was the most requested class in high school that kids would get into, and it was my favorite class. Anyway, she's my dearest friend today. She's 75 years old. We're still in touch. We talk all the time, and I've been very public about how much she changed my life.
And her name is?
Josette Tourette. Miss Tourette.
Mrs. Tourette.
Miss Tourette, yeah.
Thank you, Miss Tourette. And I always like to wrap up with a very superficial question. But what is the one thing that you are recommending to friends these days? It could be a beauty product, a book, a place, a thing that you got on Amazon. What's the thing?
So two things. I would recommend, this is a little broadcasty. I would recommend a book by Barry Diller that he just wrote a memoir. Yeah. And I would recommend part 2 of a book called Beyond Entrepreneurship. Beyond Entrepreneur. Hold on, let me get this for you. It is a life changing for me as I build a business. So it is called Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0 by Jim Collins and Bill Lazier. Oh man, wow, that book. They also wrote Good to Great. They've had some bestsellers, but so that's what I'm recommending. What are you recommending these days, Daryn Kagan?
What am I recommending? Mine's kind of random. I recently watched a documentary on Luther Vandross on a plane.
Oh, I'd love to see that. It is
so good. I mean, it's the kind of the music of my youth and college, and I've always was a fan. If you want to, it's actually a business story, David. The business that he built and the genius and all the facets of what he did and all his talents. It's like a who knew with a Luther Vandross track underneath.
Can I ask something of the people who will listen to this?
Please.
if you have stories of everyday people who are doing extraordinary things, write to me and tell me. So it's deardavid@cbsnews.com. I'll have a lot more to say about my company that I'm launching, and there'll be a separate sort of email address for that. But I am looking for stories that celebrate the best of us. I had a woman stop me in the street in Denver, Colorado a couple of weeks ago, Brenda from Mississippi. And she said, what I love about your stories is that it's not celebrities, it's people like me. And she said, when I see the stories that you show of people overcoming things, I think, well, if they can do it, I can too. And that's what I am motivated to do. And I'm always looking for a good story.
And I hope you know that that includes you too, that you have done it. You have overcome those obstacles. You have gotten these chances and grabbed them and done them. And I think that's one of the things I love about you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And thank you for this invitation.
No, thank you. I hope you'll come back.
Love to support you.
And if you get in the Savannah-ish area,
I love Savannah. Oh
please come by. We have Miss Lee's cabin. We're just waiting for you.
I love seeing that Miles husband of yours. I mean, you guys just jet setting all over. I'm like, look at Daryn living her best life. And I love the fact that you found that husband of yours because
I love it.
I don't know. Yep. I don't know the backstory of your love life, but he seems like a gem. And the two of you together seem like good partners. And I love seeing that for you. Thank you.
I think we complement each other.
Yeah.
We are different and the same in a lot of ways. We'll have to come back and do a partner. We'll talk partners.
Okay. Would love that.
Okay. You got it. Thank you, friend.
Thank you, friend.
Safe travels. I loved hearing David's story, especially the part where he talked about the teacher, the friend who changed his life. So that has me thinking about the friend who changed my life. And for that friend, we're going to go back to my days in local news in Phoenix. So I was a local news reporter. I had signed this 5-year contract doing news. That was kind of going nowhere. Not nowhere, but it wasn't going to get me out of Phoenix. So I started thinking, what are things I could do? And I decided I was going to do sports. Now, this might not sound amazing today, but a woman in sports in the mid-90s, this was still kind of a thing. In fact, the weekday sports guy thought it was his duty to pull me aside and explain that sports was a men's world or a man's world, and a woman was never going to have a place in it. Yes, that was still happening in the mid-90s. So that was the weekday sports guy. The weekend sports guy, my friend Gil, a whole different kind of story. What he did and how he supported me and how he pushed me and encouraged me, well, honestly, my life wouldn't be today what it is without my friend Gil. And that's why I think we need to call him. Let's call Gil. Well, hey there, friend.
Hey, how you doing, beautiful?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking my call.
It was my pleasure all the time. Any call that you give me, I got to take. So
You're
no
so
questions
wonderful.
asked.
You're so wonderful. So I do have to have a little warning to say what I'm going to say is going to, well, you're going to be upset with me that I'm doing this, but I have to do it. So I'm just warning you. You're like, oh boy, what's going on? Okay, so here's the thing. So, this is the podcast where I call my friends, and I just did an amazing call with David Begnaud. He's a contributor on CBS News. He does these uplifting and positive stories and has a phenomenal story himself, and a great conversation. And one of the things we talked about that I asked him was, who was the friend who changed your life? Who made it better? And he talked about this English teacher who made him get into speech and debate and really challenged him to really figure out who he was. And it's a really great story that at this point in the podcast, people will have already heard. But that made me start thinking about, okay, who's the friend who changed my life? And there's one answer, and it's you.
You got.
You're like, don't do this. Don't do this.
Please. I know you have to.
This is water torture
honored.
for you, I know. But I need to explain.
I love
need to
you.
Explain. I was
Yes,
telling our friends who are listening to the podcast that going back to Phoenix days, and I'm this local news reporter, and I decided I want to do sports, and there were plenty of people including a certain weekday sports anchor who took it upon themselves to tell me that women don't do sports. I'll never make it. You have no business, no stop, total discouragement. And then there was you, the weekend sports anchor, the guy who, I should explain, if I had any success, if anybody's job was in jeopardy, it would have been yours. That's the job that I could have gotten swapped out for. But you never even thought about that. You constantly encouraged me. You, when I got discouraged, you would physically take me, drag me in front of the monitors in the newsroom. If Hannah Storm was up, if Robin Roberts was up, if any woman doing sports at the network level was there, you would say, you see that? You can do that. And you are as good as them. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't let me quit. You would not let me quit.
Well, I knew, Daryn, you had it in you, more importantly. And I knew that anything that you touched, you had the Midas touch, you were going to turn to gold. Plus, you had that it factor. You had that desire. You had the will. And more importantly, the fortitude and the enthusiasm and just the strong will to accomplish something that you wanted to do. And I told you at that time, I said that if there's anything that you want to do, you can do it. The only thing I was concerned about, and I told you this when we did it, it was kind of funny. As I said, just make sure that you know how to pronounce the names, you pronounce whatever, because I wanted you to be, credibility is an issue. And you know that is an issue in our sports and in our business. And, you know, that's the one thing I was concerned about. But you got your ears and your eyes, and you listened, and you got it down to a science, and look at you now. I mean, I was truly honored then, and I'm truly honored now to be in your inner circle.
This is what you do, Gil. I try to make it about you, and you turn around and make it about me.
No.
So I'm going to take the reins here and just say, okay. You say all those nice things about me, and all those things that you believed in me at the time. Our boss didn't believe in me. He told me I didn't have it.
And I told you at that time, and I'll say it again, you have it. You know, people who are comfortable in their own skin will be accommodating. They will go out of their way to ensure that you are successful at what you do. And not only that, they won't hijack or sabotage anything that you desire to do or to be.
Well, I appreciate that. I will also kind of defend him a little bit. He had a different goal and game than my own. He was looking to build a successful TV station in Phoenix, Arizona, and he saw me as being able to be this much a part of it and not a big part of it. And the thing that taught me at that time is if your dreams are bigger than where you're allowed to grow, then it's time to go. And lucky for me, this is so, again, Gil, this is about you, not about me.
Yes.
Your encouragement, you're not letting me give up. You keep pushing me. That was the fuel that got me to CNN Sports as a sports anchor. The two things the boss told me I would never do, sports or an anchor. If I don't do that, if I don't go to CNN, if I don't do CNN Sports, I don't do CNN, I don't move to Atlanta, I don't meet this husband, I don't have this family, like none of this happens, Gil, without you. And you just need to sit in my gratitude for a second. As much as that makes you squirm like you're in a vat of 100 crocodiles, and you just need to accept it. And that's why I told you you're going to hate this.
Okay.
But just take it.
I will.
Just accept it. I need the world to know.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. And I'm honored, and I accept it.
Okay.
And I love you.
Okay.
So
thank you. I love you too. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking my call. I know that wasn't an easy call to take.
No, it wasn't. And like I said, I'm a person that likes to stick in the background, and
you do
stay dark, as they say, so to speak, because I just want to see you glow and grow and do the things that you were destined to be. And you have more than accomplished that. And you're just at level 2. You haven't even got to level 3, 4, and 5, and 6 yet. You're on your way. And I told you that. You are relevant. And whatever part I played in it, I'm just overwhelmed and I can't say enough thank yous for that.
Thank you. Thank you, friend. We'll talk soon and text soon.
Yes. Okay.
Love you.
Love you too.
So that's my friend Gil Tyree for you. We didn't even get into what an amazing sports mind savant he is, of course, because Gil doesn't like to talk about himself. The point is, it was such a pleasure and such a gift to be able to call my friend Gil, and tell him how he changed my life. A reminder, friend, pretty please to like, subscribe, share, whatever you can do to spread the word about Call Me Friend. It's the way that this podcast grows and the way I can keep bringing more of my friends to you. You can call me at 912-766-0446 or send me an email or reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. But more importantly, even than you getting in touch with me, why don't you go ahead and call that friend? And even if they're going to squirm like Gil did, let them know how they changed your life. Go ahead, call them, friend. Hope we chat soon. You've been listening to Call Me Friend. Executive producers for this show are Daryn Kagan and me, Daryn Kagan. Could not do this show without my great team, Produce Your Podcast and Journeyist Inc., production by Abe Fallick, Tammy Gagnon, and Rob Paw.
Before you go, Call Me Friend is more than a podcast, it's a community. So head over to callmefriendpodcast.com to join the conversation. Or you can call or send a text to 912-766-0446, and you can leave Daryn a message there, or maybe even share a story of your own. Because when life gets real, you don't have to go it alone. Call a friend. Call this friend.